Good morning, everyone. This is Pastor Alan Hathaway. I wanted to share with you my message today, As Wise as What? I'm continuing a series on the Irish hymn, Be Thou My Vision. And if you'd like to hear the message, it will be found right here on our website. And I encourage you to go there to listen to the audio of the message that I'll be preaching this morning. But I'd like to share with you just a few thoughts from that. It's actually taken out of 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32, and Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 21. I am struck by these particular passages in dealing with the concept of wisdom. Wisdom is a powerful thing, and it says in 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32, in a very strange sort of way. This passage is talking about all the nobles and the warriors who were gathered around David shortly after he took the city of Jerusalem and the building of his kingdom. But what strikes me about that is a group of men from the tribe of Issachar. We are told that they were men who understood the times and were able to make sense out of that. That is an unusual phrase that is used just for them. We're told that most of the other tribes sent warriors who were well armed, who had had talent and ability at warcraft, but these men were unique in the sense that they understood the times and understood how to react to the times. We live in a world that is changing right now dramatically, and we need to be people who understand the times and know how to respond to those times. Wisdom is the ability to apply what you have learned and what you know to life's circumstances. It is not a matter of how much you know or how well you have learned things or how well you have memorized them. It is rather your ability to apply what you know to life. And that is a powerful thing about wisdom. Wisdom has nothing to do with intelligence, beyond the fact that if you have intelligence, you're able to gather a lot more knowledge. But if you don't know how to use that knowledge or how to apply it or how to direct it toward a purpose in life, that knowledge really is useless to you. And so that's really what we're talking about. That's what wisdom really is about. It's about applying what we know to life's circumstances. We actually live in a world right now that really doesn't seem to value wisdom very much. We value information. We collect huge amounts of information. In fact, the computer I'm working on right now collects an enormous amount of data. But that is simply data. That data is, if it's not used for something, is basically useless. It doesn't accomplish anything. So we are able to collect a lot of information. We are also able to gather a great deal of knowledge. And I have met a lot of people who are very knowledgeable about a lot of different things, but they don't know how to apply that knowledge to practical issues in life. And so it really doesn't serve them and serve the needs that they have in life. I also know a lot of people that are experts. They have collected a lot of knowledge and expertise in an area, but they really don't know how to apply that across different disciplines. And that is really where wisdom comes in. It's the ability to apply knowledge across different areas and different disciplines. That is important in our world. We desperately need people of wisdom in this generation. We need people who are able to apply knowledge in a practical way. We do not pretend that the world is the way we want it to be. The men of Issachar did not pretend that the world was the way they thought it should be. In fact, they realized the world was exactly what it was. The Apostle Paul says in Ephesians, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise." We need to be wise in the way in which we behave ourselves and we conduct ourselves in this world. We need to be understanding of the circumstances and working with the direction of God's Holy Spirit to deal with the circumstances we live in. One of the people that fascinates me is the woman Bridget. She's called Saint Bridget, but she is a fascinating woman. She lived sometime between the years of 553 and 624. In fact, her date of death is given as 524. She lived between the years of 453 and 524. Those years were critical because they were right after the time of Patrick. Patrick died in 461, and Bridget was actually born to one of the converts of Patrick. She was an interesting lady. We don't know a lot about her, but we do know that she was captured as a teenager in what is now modern Scotland. She was a Pict. The Picts originally were the inhabitants of Scotland, and I'll be talking next Sunday about how that all changed. But suffice it to say, she was captured by Irish pirates and brought back and sold into slavery in Ireland. The nobleman who bought her in Ireland raped her, and as a result, she became pregnant. And after she became pregnant, she turned back to the Christian faith. She was baptized by Patrick into the Christian faith, and she became a fairly ardent follower. This did not make her master happy with her. In fact, he became quite upset with her, and his wife was even more upset because she saw the child she was carrying as a potential threat to her own progeny. So she pressed upon her husband the sale of Patrick's mother. And so while Bridget's mother was still carrying her, she was sold into slavery to a Druid priest who, according to tradition, ran a dairy. She eventually would bear Bridget, and the Druid would name her after a Celtic goddess called Bridget. Bridget was the goddess, the Celtic goddess of wisdom and prophecy and war. And so Bridget was, some of that got transferred to her later on when she was declared a saint. But before that, what we do know about her is that when she was born, she was allowed to stay with her mother until she was age 10. And then she was sent back to her father by the Druid master of her mother. She was raised in her father's home, but she turned to the faith of her mother, and that was not something that made her father very happy. In fact, he was quite angry with her and abused her because of that. He was thinking about selling her when she was the king whom he was talking to about selling her to recognized that she was a Christian, and recommended instead that her father liberate her, and he did at the king's behest. And she joined the Christian community. Patrick, by this time, was already dead, but she grew up and developed in that community and became a person recognized for her wisdom and understanding and her direction. Because of this, she would eventually become one of the three founders of the Irish Christian faith. Patrick, Bridget, and Columba, and I will be talking about Columba in later messages, but suffice it to say that more than likely, when Dylan Frogel wrote Be Thou My Vision, when he was thinking about this particular phrase, Be Thou My Wisdom, and Thou My True Word, I ever with Thee, and Thou with me, Lord, was probably thinking back to these three founders, and Bridget certainly reflected that character in her life. She was a woman of wisdom, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about her faith and her direction and the community that she drew around herself a little bit later today during my messages. I hope you'll join us in church for these. But suffice it to say that wisdom is central to facing dark times. Bridget did not have an ideal world in which she came into. She was living in a pagan culture that was transitioning to Christianity, but there was still a lot of violence and still a lot of mayhem and still a lot of difficult things in her world. But she overcame them by her wisdom and by her grace and by her intelligence. And you and I can overcome the circumstances we face as we allow the wisdom of Christ to fill our lives. I hope you'll do that today. I pray that God will bless you and keep you in his hands. Take care of you. Hope to see you in church.